Hey everybody, hope we're doing well. We're going to look at checkup 7.2.2 for your apex geometry. This is another nice section. It is focusing on this distance formula. A quick thing I want you to know about the distance formula for when you go into your quiz is the distance formula. It is derived from, it's derived from the Pythagorean theorem. It's not the other way around, okay? What came first, the chicken or the egg? It is the distance formula is derived from the Pythagorean theorem. You'll probably see a question like that on your quiz. You should also know that what you're doing basically with a distance formula, you have some point and some point over here. You want to know how far away they are from each other. Okay, that's what the distance formula is. Change my color real fast. So what we're actually building is a right triangle. How many units am I moving in each direction? That's the distance of this whole line. So the distance formula is derived from the Pythagorean theorem because you're making right triangles, and the distance is your hypotenuse. Okay? So if you even look at the distance formula, you see the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Distance can kind of be thought of as your c. So this should help you with a few of the kind of vocab questions when you get to your quiz. Remember, the distance formula is derived from the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is not derived from the distance formula. Okay? Getting into some of the questions, this is what we did before with the midpoint formula. You're going to be given points, and you're going to be asked the distance. So we use our formula and we use our points. I always like to label my points. I think it helps. So the first thing I'm going to do in here is come in. And I'm going to say x1, x2. I'm sorry, that's wrong. x1, y1, right? When you write a point, you should have that combination. So it's x1, y1. Then my other set will be x2, y2. So at x, y, x, y, there should be that alternating. Don't mess up like I did. Okay? And now I just want to follow this distance formula. The first thing I should write is that square root sign, parenthesis. Next I need x2. Well, x2 is 4. Got that? 4 minus my x1, which is 1, squared, close the parenthesis, plus, I want to start with y2, that's 5, minus 1 squared. And we're going to piece this through. Depending upon your strength with this kind of thing, you can do it in more or less steps. It's really a personal preference thing. I'm going to do this one out with just a lot of steps so you can see it all. So we still have our square root sign. We haven't dealt with that yet. I know 4 minus 1, well, that would be of me 3 squared, plus 5 minus 1 is 4 squared. Okay, so I've just done the subtraction, so you can start there, easy steps. Now, I can probably go through and do the squaring. 3 times 3 is 9. You can always use your phone for a calculator to do the squaring, or again, you can use Google. If you search on Google for calculator, there's a calculator feature. Most little calculators you might have around your house will also be able to square. A square is just a number times itself, so 3 times 3. Plus 4 times 4, I know to be 60. Okay? Well, now we can go ahead and add those together. 9 plus 16, I know is 25. Now is your square root. Okay? What is the square root of 25? This is where you might want to Google it. A lot of times your square roots are not going to come out as whole numbers. You can also use your phone. Most of the time for the phone, you're going to have to turn it sideways so you get kind of an extended calculator. But what you want to look for most calculators is, like my phone, I type in the root first, and then I put in my number and hit enter. And that's how most of them work. you have a TI-83 calculator, you hit the second button at the top and then the x squared button. So you get that little root, and you put in 25, and that should equal 5. You also might be able to just Google like square root of 25, and it might go ahead and calculate it straight up from Google. And you know your answer is 5. So my distance from one end to the other end is 5 units of some sort. We don't have any type of unit measure here. Okay? And you see these problems all follow a very similar pattern. They're giving you 2 points. You just want to plug it into that formula. Down here, they look like these are somehow different problems, but it's really not. You're still doing the same thing. So I'll go ahead and do 10 since 10 has a lot of negatives, just so you can make sure you feel some confidence going into negatives. The way they've set this up, you still have 2 points. AB is just asking for the distance. So again, let's start with labeling. X1, and don't be like me earlier, Y1, X2, Y2. Okay? So we've labeled our points, and now we can get into using our fun little formula. Square root, and after the square root it's parentheses, and I'm going to use x2 first. X2 is negative 3 minus negative 7 squared. Yes, there are a lot of negatives. Keep them all in for right now. We will deal with them in a little bit. Plus, we're going to start parenthesis with our y2, yes, which is negative 8, minus, and we'll go to our y1, negative 10 squared. Okay? A lot of negatives. We're all over the place, but we can simplify this. Take as many steps as you need with those negatives. Okay? So square root. I'm going to keep that negative 3. 2 negatives, remember, makes a positive. So minus negative 7 is the same as saying plus 7. Plus negative 8 minus negative 10 is, again, it's the same as saying plus 10. So plus 10 squared. Doing that little step, already this looks cleaner. So if it helps you to write out all of those steps, go for it. If you're someone who is stronger and you knew to go ahead and change things, or you're good with using a calculator, you can skip that step. But it does help clean things up if you struggle with negatives. Okay? Now we have negative 3 plus 7. We'll flip it around. What is 7 minus 3? Is probably an easier problem. Or you owed me $3 and you got a $7 allowance. How much money will you have after you pay me back? Well, you're going to have $4, so 4 squared. Okay? Plus, same idea here. You have a negative 8, so I need to take away 8 from this positive 10. When I do that, there's enough left over to still have a positive, so I've got 2 squared. Okay? 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. Continue this over here. And 16 plus 4, I know, is 20. And I'll tell you, 20 is not a perfect square. So this is where I'm going to have to come to my calculator, because I don't know the square root of 20 off of my head. It's going to be between 4 and 5. So I know it's a decimal, but I don't know what it is. So you need to go to your calculator. My calculator has a square root button. Mine's actually, even before I turn it sideways, I have like a top that has the word log. You'll see there's a pi button, some parentheses, so perhaps you don't even have to turn it sideways. Turning sideways does give you another extended, but I see my root. I'm going to press it, and I'm going to put in 20, and I get an answer of 4.47. Apex questions vary what they give you. They may round to 1 decimal, they may round to 2, so just be aware of that. If we wanted to round this to 1, The 7 is bigger than 5, so I'd push this up to 4.5. So that will just depend on what the question asks. I hope this is helpful. I hope this distance formula goes well for you. Please let me know if you have any questions.